But in the time that we have this morning, I want to share with you 4 other things, all beginning with the letter F, which are extremely important in terms of you and I being good stewards of our bodies, the way that we care for our health. The first F is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Now you might think, forgiveness, we're talking about health. What has forgiveness got to do with health? Caring for our bodies. Well, turn with me to an incident from the ministry of Jesus. It's found in Mark chapter 2. Mark chapter 2. And the background is that Jesus was wrong. That's why you were suffering. And obviously this teaching had impacted upon the conscience of this man. He felt worthless. He felt that he could not be forgiven. He had descended into the depths of despair. And Ellen White, in the book Desire of Ages, offers this insight about the thinking of that paralyzed man. It was not physical restoration he desired so much as relief from the burden of sin. If he could see Jesus and receive the assurance of forgiveness and peace with heaven, he would be content to live or die according to God's will. And so when that man heard from the lips of Jesus that his sins were forgiven, he could feel a tremendous burden rolling away. He could have said with the hymn writer, "Oh, the joy of the glorious thought, my sin is removed." And Ellen White goes on to say, the burden of sin and despair rolled from the sick man's soul. The peace of forgiveness rested upon his spirit and shone out upon his countenance. He was forgiven. See, guilt and shame and regret, all of these things can impact upon our health, upon our well-being. We have a very powerful example of that in the experience of David. Turn with me to Psalm 32. Psalm 32. And verses 3 and 4. And when David wrote these words, he was the most powerful man in the region at that time. The country was enjoying prosperity. He was enjoying popularity. But notice how he felt. Psalm 32 and verse 3. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy upon me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. You say, here was a man who was burdened with guilt, who was weighed down with shame. To all outward appearances, everything was going well, but it wasn't. And what he needed to do was to confess his sins and to ask for forgiveness. And that's what happened. Verse 5. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin. Is there anyone in this congregation this morning that's dealing with guilt? That feels burdened with shame, weighed down with regret? We need to know the wonderful truth and reality of God's forgiveness. He doesn't want us to wallow in self-pity. He doesn't want us to make resolutions that are induced by guilt. His forgiveness is full and free. It's available and abundant, and He wants us to receive it. It's there for the taking. It's there for the receiving. And that forgiveness is liberating. It's healthy. It's good for us. And so God asks us to receive His forgiveness. But forgiveness operates in another way. The forgiveness that we receive from God is to flow out to others. And that's again where forgiveness is so very important when it comes to our physical and mental well-being. If you and I do not forgive others, there is the very real danger that we will pay the cost of bitterness and resentment. An editorial in an Adventist publication puts it very well. It is cheaper to forgive than to resent. Why cheaper? Forgiveness saves the cost of anger, the high cost of hate, and the prohibitive price of bitterness. The coinage in which you pay for the luxury of anger, hate, and bitterness is your own health. Physical health, mental health, spiritual health. And there is an increasing amount of research bearing out the fact that failure to forgive impacts upon our health. If you and I gather grudges and grievances, if you and I hold on to our hatred, if you and I harbour resentment, it actually has an impact upon our immune systems and makes us more vulnerable to various infections. It also has an impact for our mental well-being. Research indicates that resentment and holding on to hurts and hates is a major factor in that condition that we know as burnout. Jim and Jessie were two active church members in the Scottish Highlands. They were both lay preachers. Jim was very slick and smooth. Jessie, he was more cautious, more down to earth. The fact that they had two different personalities meant that they didn't get on particularly well. But one day in a church outing, Jim was caught in a compromising position with Jessie's wife, and so there was open warfare. The church took action against Jim. He was disciplined. But that wasn't enough for Jessie. It didn't seem to affect Jim in any way. And so he kept hurting. He kept bearing resentment against Jim. Jessie and his wife moved away, but it didn't save their marriage. And still, Jessie hung on to that resentment, that anger, that bitterness against Jim. He gave up preaching. He became a recluse. His minister told him to let go, to move on, but Jessie wouldn't listen. And finally, the amount of milk bottles outside the door and newspapers told the community that he had died a lonely death, died of a massive heart attack. But Jim had died in his soul long before. Bitterness ruined his life. As someone has said, of the 7 deadly sins, anger is the most fun. To lick your wounds, to smack your lips over grievances long past. In many ways it is a feast fit for a king. The chief drawback is, what you are wolfing down is yourself. Holding on to resentment, harbouring hatred, is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And so you and I have two choices when it comes to forgiveness in relation to other people. We can hold on to our hatred, our hurts, until they become hates. We can collect grudges, but they will hurt us. They will eat away at us and slop over into our relationships as well. Or we can let go. We can forgive. We can move on. We can let go. And that is the way to freedom and to health. Forgiveness is the healthy option. The first F in enjoying a healthy, abundant life is forgiveness. To receive God's forgiveness, to reproduce God's forgiveness, in our relationship to others. The second F is fun. Fun. Now that sounds pretty simple and basic and fun. But there are three particular insights that I'd like to share with you regarding fun. First of all, the importance of having a sense of humour. The importance of laughter. The importance of enjoying a good joke and seeing the funny side of life. Someone has written, there isn't much fun in medicine, but there's a heck of a lot of medicine in fun. And the Bible agrees. Proverbs, it's full of it. We have a few quotations in Proverbs. A happy heart makes the face cheerful. Oh, a cheerful heart has a continual feast. And then one that we probably know very well, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. The benefit of fun, laughter. And here again, I think we have a wonderful example in Jesus. You know, yes, Jesus was the man of sorrows acquainted with grief, but I think he would have been a good person to be around. I can imagine Jesus and his disciples having great laughs together as a group of men. The fact that children enjoyed the company of Jesus would indicate to me that he was a happy person to be around. And some of the statements that Jesus made were actually funny. Now, the humour has been lost in translation and in culture, but the people who were listening to Jesus would have been collapsing in laughter at some of the things that he said. Laughter is good for us. Did you know, for example, that apparently 20 seconds of laughter has the same effect on the cardiovascular system as 3 minutes of strenuous rowing? That sounds a better option, doesn't it? That 100 laughs are equivalent to 10 minutes on a rowing machine. And what about this? 10 minutes of laughter have the same beneficial effect on the body as 2 hours of sleep. It's good to laugh. It's good to have fun. And if we're to be good stewards of our bodies, it's important that we should develop a sense of humour, that we should enjoy life. A sense of humour provides a break from ongoing stress and encourages relaxation. Laughter restores and replenishes our emotions. It benefits our immune systems and lowers blood pressure. Laughter releases what are known as endorphins, or feel-good hormones. And these are drugs that are natural, that are legal and inexpensive. And we can enjoy them when we laugh, when we have fun. And humour also presents the hardening of attitudes. Now, you've heard of the hardening of arteries, which aren't good for you. But it's not good for attitudes to harden either. And a sense of humour, laughter, enables us to be fun-loving and contributes to a positive mental outlook. It's good to laugh. It's good to have a sense of humour. Now, some of us may have more of a sense of humour than others. But we can all do something about it. Being grateful, celebrating life, seeing the funny side of life, not taking ourselves too seriously. Very important in enjoying life.